Galactic Empire attacked a hospital. Humanity broke 107 years of peace to wage. The first Adrathi round hit Halcyon Ward hard enough to shove the hospital sideways. White docking lamps swung across the black as the station rolled, and an emergency collar tore loose from an arriving shuttle before its clamps had fully released. The shuttle spun clear on cold gas. Behind it, 3 transparent patient transfer tubes snapped shut in sequence, sealing their compartments before the station's slow rotation could throw them against the outer ring. Administrator Pyria Knox had been standing beside a wall display when the deck moved under her feet. She caught a white traction strip with one boot, grabbed a clipped maintenance lanyard with both hands, and watched the medical exclusion symbols outside the station turn from green to amber. A second impact did not land. The shot passed across the place Halcyon Ward had occupied 6 seconds earlier. That was worse. The Adrathi were correcting. Imperial squadron is holding outside the exclusion ring, an operator said. Pyria looked at the tactical pane. They just fired through it. Yes, the word was small enough to fit inside the silence that followed. Halcyon Ward had no battle line. It had docking arms, pharmacy storage, surgical modules, sleep wards, and the wide transfer corridors needed to move patients who could not tolerate sharp acceleration. Its defensive emitters were designed to break debris and push wreckage away from inhabited sections. Its emergency tractor fields could catch a shuttle. They could not stop a warship. Pyria thumbed a local channel. All departments, brace for continued maneuver. Keep transfer collars sealed until attitude control is stable. Use manual wedges on powered doors around the hospital. Small white polymer door wedges came out of drawers that had not been opened in years. Far beyond the station, War Prefect Threx Valon watched Halcyon Ward rotate inside the forward display of the Adrathi cruiser Iron Psalm. He had ordered the first shot. Not at a ward, not at a docking cradle. The round had struck an external stabilization truss beside an empty service spine. His targeting officer had shown him the impact solution twice. Valon still understood what he had done. Human response, he asked. None inside the battle space. Signal traffic? Emergency medical calls. Neutral protests? Human relay acknowledged receipt. Valon rested one hand on the edge of his command platform. That is response. His staff waited. For 107 years, humanity had not opened an offensive campaign. Human patrols escorted convoys, intercepted raiders inside claimed space, guarded stations, and enforced local exclusions. They had threatened. They had blockaded. They had not crossed a declared peace boundary to begin war. The Adrathi Strategic Bureau had built a doctrine around that fact. A civilization could forget a habit. A fleet could become the institution its laws allowed it to be.
Hold the ring, Valon said.
No further fire unless the hospital attempts military docking or a human warship enters the protected zone. His operations officer shifted her jaw plates. The Calixans will say we violated the zone already. They will be correct. That startled more people than anger would have. Valon continued. The question is what correction follows. We are here to learn whether human restraint is policy or incapacity. At Halcyon Ward, Pyria did not care what lesson the Adrathi wanted. One stabilization cluster had failed. A second was overloaded. The hospital's roll was slow enough to survive and fast enough to ruin docking geometry. 3 evacuation ferries waited outside. Unable to match the rotating collars without using thrust levels the hospital's fragile outer modules could not tolerate. Then a human cruiser arrived without the dramatic flair Pyria expected. UNS. Second Bell came out of transit beyond the exclusion ring and coasted in on a flat, dark vector. Its main drive stayed cold. Only small attitude jets blinked once along the stern. Human command requests station state data, an operator said. Pyria opened the channel. Second Bell, this is Halcyon Ward. We are unstable. Docking arms 3 and 5 are locked. Arm 2 is responding manually. Outer transfer is suspended. A woman answered. Halcyon Ward. Second Bell. Commodore Anika Rowe. We're here under Emergency Protection Authority. We will not dock until you tell us the structure can take it. Pyria glanced toward the tactical pane. The Adrathi say they will fire if you enter the protected zone. We heard them. You have not been at war for 107 years. A pause. That is also true. Imperial looked through the broad operations window. Second Bell was a long, low cruiser with a blunt bow and an oddly deep central keel. Nothing about it looked ceremonial. Nothing about it looked eager. What are you going to do? Pyria asked. First, keep your hospital from rolling. Anika Rowe cut the channel and turned to Lieutenant Jalen Marr, attitude state. Ward is gaining a little every cycle. Their surviving stabilizers are fighting each other. Marr had one sleeve rolled above his wrist where a maintenance lanyard had caught and torn the fabric earlier. If they keep doing that, they'll heat the outer bearing before they stop the roll. Can we damp it? With thrust, yes. Not near those collars, I know. Second Bell's bridge held no shouted countdown. Annika had spent most of her command career near things that broke when warships behaved carelessly. Habitats, crowded yards, slow freighters, research stations with exposed instruments. She watched Halcyon Ward rotate and felt the old training settle into place. The hospital's white lamps passed across the bridge glass, disappeared, and returned. Gyrokeel ready, she asked. Marr looked at her. For station handling, that earned the slightest change in his expression. Ready? Anika keyed the Calixin channel. Pyria, I need permission to enter the ring without drive thrust. You can do that? We can enter without main thrust. I'm asking because our hull mass will change your emergency tractor behavior. Pyria gave permission. Second Bell crossed the boundary. On Iron Psalm, Valen leaned forward. Drive output. Main drive remains cold. Attitude thrusters, minimal. The human cruiser continued toward the rolling hospital. Its trajectory was almost straight. Then its bow began to turn. No bright stern flare. No broad fan of lateral jets. The cruiser simply changed facing while its center of mass kept moving along nearly the same line. Valen's targeting officer frowned at her own display. That cannot be right. It is right, Valen said. His interest sharpened. Second Bell rotated until its broad armored flank faced Halcyon Ward. Two small maneuver jets pulsed, not to turn the ship but to shave its closing speed. Inside the human cruiser, machinery far below the bridge changed pitch. Pyria heard the sound through the open channel, a low vibration that rose, held, and settled. What was that? She asked. Internal attitude control, Anika said. You'll feel our tractor field in a moment. Second Bell extended a weak stabilizing field toward the hospital's central service ring. It did not try to stop the station. It applied a small, steady correction timed against Halcyon Ward's own surviving stabilizers. The hospital's roll slowed. A docking lamp that had been circling Pyria's window began to linger. Again, Marr said. Second Bell changed, facing another few degrees with its main drive still cold. The deep keel hummed through the deck. The cruiser's trajectory barely moved, but the field emitters on its flank kept their best angle on the station. Pyria watched the numbers fall. You built a warship to do this? Annika did not answer immediately. We built warships that had to live near everyone else. The hospital's rotation dropped below the threshold for emergency ferry approach. A Calixin shuttle fired its cold gas and moved toward docking arm 2. Then Valen spoke across the open channel. Commodore Rowe. Stop your approach. Anika shifted her attention to the Imperial marker. You attacked a hospital? I struck its stabilization truss. You fired on a protected medical facility. Yes, the admission removed any easy place for anger to land. Valen said, withdraw? Your people have maintained 107 years without offensive war. Do not end that record over a neutral station. Anika looked at Halcyon Ward. The first shuttle had reached the manual docking arm. Through the magnified feed, she could see 2 Calixin technicians in pale suits guiding the collar by hand. Prefect, she said. You are standing inside a medical exclusion perimeter with hot weapons, and you are not at war. Not yet, she cut the channel. Marr glanced toward her. That sounded dangerously like a historical sentence. Then forget it. A warning flashed. Iron Psalm had moved, not forward. Sideways. The Adrathi squadron spread along the outside of the hospital ring, placing ships across the vectors Second Bell would need if it wanted to leave without approaching one of them. Valen was building a cage from predicted thrust lanes. He thinks we need burn corridors, Mar said. He has reasons. He's going to learn about the keel. Only what we have to show him. Anika opened a fleet channel. 3 human patrol ships had arrived behind Second Bell, each still beyond the old peace boundary. For 107 years, human doctrine had treated that line as more than a coordinate. Crossing it with offensive authority required an act no living human officer had performed under the current charter. Annika placed her thumb against the command authorization. The bridge became very quiet. Emergency protection order confirmed, the system said. Offensive authority remains inactive. Anika looked at the hospital shuttle easing into its collar while the station's white lamps steadied one by one. Then Iron Psalm trained its forward battery toward the ring. Activate offensive authority, Anika said. A plain red line appeared across every human tactical display. 107 years of non-offensive posture, terminated by command authority. No one cheered. Second Bell crossed the line first. The other 3 human ships followed. Valen saw the status change on his translated feed and felt the old model crack, not because humanity had fired, but because it had crossed without hesitation. Lock their burn lanes, he ordered. His squadron tightened. Second Bell's bow turned toward Iron Psalm. Its main drive remained dark. Valen watched the human cruiser rotate against its flight path and understood that his cage had assumed one thing too many. Trajectory had been treated as intention. Burn direction had been treated as weapon direction. The human ship was showing him those were different questions, and it had not fired yet. Iron Psalm fired first at the space ahead of Second Bell. Annika saw the projected hazard bloom across the tactical display and knew Valen had understood at least part of the problem. He was no longer waiting for human drives to ignite. He was shaping the places they could safely go. Keep ballistic track, she said. Mar braced one hand against his console, keel to 40%. The deep machinery beneath the bridge climbed in pitch. Second Bell turned its armored bow away from its direction of travel. Its center of mass continued toward the hospital ring, but its forward batteries came around toward the nearest Adrathi escort. The escort's fire control solution jumped, then vanished. Annika did not order a shot. She ordered a warning pulse across the escort's sensor mast, bright enough to force safeties and narrow enough to leave the hull untouched. The escort rolled away. Halcyon Ward's second evacuation ferry slipped through the opening. Pyrio watched it happen from operations. They could have hit that ship. They did, her tactical operator said. No, the operator enlarged the feed. The Adrathi escort's sensor mast was still intact, but its targeting aperture had folded shut under automatic protection. Pyria stared. They made it blink. Outside, the human cruiser changed, facing again. Its main drive stayed cold. Valen's command deck became louder, not with panic, but with work. Human internal angular system confirmed, the targeting officer said. Unknown storage method. Their hull orientation is not tied to thrust vector. How long can they sustain it? No answer. Then create one. Valen sent 2 escorts apart. One climbed above the orbital plane. The other dropped below it. Iron Psalm held center. The next attack did not try to trap Second Bell's path. It forced the human ship to decide which direction to face. The upper escort armed, Second Bell rotated toward it. The lower escort armed half a breath later. Second Bell reversed. Valen watched the human hull move without changing course and saw the low vibration spike on passive sensors. There, he said. His targeting officer enlarged the trace. The human maneuver had a cost. Repeat from alternating axes. On Second Bell, Mars console showed amber. Keel storage rising fast. How fast? Fast enough that he knows what he's doing. Anika looked toward the hospital. One ferry was docked. Another was still approaching. A third waited outside the ring. Can we dump angular load? Normally. Main drive attitude correction. Flywheel unload through thrusters or time. We have none of those cleanly. Correct. Valen's upper escort threatened again. Annika let the ship keep facing down. The escort fired. Second Bell did not turn. Armor, Anika said. The shot struck the cruiser's forward quarter and spread across layered shielding in a hard white flash. The bridge lights dipped. A clipped tool lanyard swung under Mars station. "Shield margin good," someone called. Anika's jaw tightened once. Now? Second bell fired one narrow burst. Not at the escort's reactor. Not at its bridge. The burst cut across an external weapon cooling vein. The escort's forward battery safed itself. For the first time, an Adrathi warship inside the ring lost an offensive option because of human fire. Valen did not repeat his earlier claim about peace. Upper escort, fall back. Lower unit, pressure their ventral arc. Iron Psalm, advance 6 degrees. The battle changed. That mattered more to Anika than surprise. He's learning. Mar said he should. Not comforting. It isn't supposed to be. A warning from Halcyon Ward interrupted them. Pyria appeared on the bridge display with one hand pressed against a bulkhead as the station shifted. "Commodore, docking arm 2 is loaded. We have patients moving through it now. Do not pull our roll against that arm." Anika looked at the station state overlay. "Your stabilizer 3 is showing recovery." It came back after the power transfer. "Can it hold?" For now, Mar zoomed the data. If 3 holds, their own system can carry the next 20 minutes. We can release our field and get room to maneuver. Anika hesitated. The hospital's stabilization trace was ugly but improving. "Pyria, confirm you want our field off. I want you fighting away from my transfer arm." "Understood." Second bell released the tractor field. Halcyon Ward continued to slow under its own power. For the first time since the attack, Anika had separation from the station. "Human group," she said. "Spread. No one crosses the hospital's inner transfer cone. We take the Adrathi outward." The 3 patrol ships moved. Their main drives lit in brief, controlled burns, then went dark again. Once coasting, each began changing attitude independently. Valen watched 4 human warships fly on one set of vectors while pointing on another. His staff had spent years building prediction tables from drive plumes. Every military did. Thrust revealed commitment. A ship that burned port could not instantly attack as though it had burned starboard. Momentum was honest even when captains were not. The humans had not made momentum dishonest, they had made facing less informative. Valen understood the distinction. That was the first real crack. Not fear, not awe. A failed equation. "Do not chase their noses," he said. "Track center mass only. Force them to spend internal rotation." His operations officer answered at once. "Alternating threats. Yes, we do not need to hit them. We need to make them turn." The Adrathi squadron split into 3 pressure groups. Anika saw it forming. He found the limit. Mar did not look away from his console. He found a limit. "We still have room." "Enough? Ask me after he spends it." The next 5 minutes were not clean. Human ships coasted through Ravelin Verge while Adrathi units threatened from shifting angles. Each human turn raised stored angular load. Each refusal to turn accepted more shield pressure. Each short thruster unload revealed a little more about the human system. Second bell took another glancing strike. A patrol ship called Glass Harbor was forced to burn hard to avoid a crossing shot. Its drive plume exposed the exact correction Valen had wanted, and an Adrathi escort moved into the new lane before the human ship could recover. Glass Harbor boxed, Tactical said. Anika saw 3 options, none were good. Second bell, rotate dorsal. Bell 3, cover Harbor's exit. Mar looked at her. Dorsal turn takes us into red storage. I know. The gyro keel hummed lower, heavier. Second bell rolled while still traveling sideways relative to its bow. Its dorsal weapon arc crossed the Adrathi escort, threatening Glass Harbor. Anika fired. The burst struck the escort's forward shield projector. The projector collapsed, and its automatic combat system pulled the ship out rather than expose the hull. Glass Harbor escaped. Then Second Bell's attitude display turned red. Keel saturated, Mar said. The cruiser could still fly. It could no longer make another large drive-cold rotation. Valen saw the same truth from passive data. Now, he said, Iron Psalm drove forward. Its escorts stopped trying to predict human weapon direction and started controlling physical space. The Edrati formation compressed the humans toward the hospital ring. Annika ordered main thrust. Second Bell's engines lit. For the first time since crossing the boundary, the human cruiser's movement and intention became visible together. Valan's targeting officers smiled with professional satisfaction. Solution stable. Fire to force displacement, Valan said. Iron Psalm's shot crossed Second Bell's projected route. Annika burned harder and moved away from it, exactly as Valan had intended. Another Edrathi unit filled the space she had abandoned. Within 3 exchanges, the humans had lost the silent geometry that had made them unpredictable. Mar lowered the gyrokeel load through controlled thruster unload, but that took time and fuel. "We can keep fighting," he said. "We just can't pretend he doesn't know the rules anymore." "Good." He looked at her. Annika pointed at the plot. "If a trick only works while the other side is confused, it isn't doctrine." Outside, Halcyon Ward's third ferry began its approach. Pyria stood beside the docking coordinator and watched the Edrathi pressure wall move closer to the protected ring. "Can humanity stop them?" the coordinator asked. Pyria watched Second Bell burn visibly now, giving away the kind of information it had hidden minutes earlier. "Yes," she said. Then she corrected herself. "I think they can. I no longer know how." That uncertainty reached Valan too. He had broken the first human advantage. The humans had not withdrawn. Instead, their formation widened. One patrol ship took a high line. Glass Harbor dropped low. Second Bell moved center with its main drive plainly visible. No attempt to hide. Valan narrowed his eyes. "They are changing the problem." His operations officer said, "They have to." "We saturated their internal system, then find out what they chose instead." Anika's answer came through action. The human ships stopped using the gyro keels to make large deceptive turns. They used them for small corrections, a few degrees at a time. Enough to keep armor facing incoming fire, enough to hold weapon arcs across crossing targets. The Edrathi pressure wall advanced. Human hulls did not dance away. They became difficult to push. Valan ordered another alternating attack. This time, Second Bell did not spend a full rotation answering it. The cruiser took the upper threat on armor, tipped only enough to bring a side battery across the lower escort, and kept moving. The human burst disabled the escort's weapon feed without touching its drive. Valan felt the second crack. He had assumed the internal system existed to create surprise. The humans were using it to control exposure. His tactical display marked the damaged escort as combat limited. Then another marker changed, and another, not destroyed. Limited. The category was dying in pieces. Humanity's century of peace had not produced ships that forgot how to fight. It had produced ships trained to decide exactly what part of themselves faced danger while they moved among things they refused to endanger. Valan leaned toward the display. "Pressure them harder," he said. "If their control is bounded, the boundary is where this battle will be decided." On Second Bell, Annika heard the order translated from an intercepted command burst. She looked at Mar. "He's right." Mar nodded toward the hospital. "And that is still behind us." The third ferry touched Halcyon Ward's manual collar. For a moment, white docking lamps reflected along Second Bell's hull. Then the hospital's recovered stabilizer 3 spiked. Pyria's voice broke across every human channel. "Commodore, we have a new problem." Halcyon Ward's stabilizer 3 had not recovered. It had restarted. Those were different conditions, and the difference arrived as a shudder through the hospital's outer ring. Pyria saw the trace climb past its earlier limit, flatten for 2 seconds, then fall. A warning moved across the operations wall: stabilization, authority lost. The hospital began to rotate the other way, not quickly, not violently. Enough. The third ferry was already in its collar. The fourth had just begun matching the approach lane. A slight change in station attitude moved that lane across the battle space like the hand of a clock. Pyria hit the human channel. "Our stabilizer is not holding. We are losing the transfer cone." Annika brought the hospital geometry onto the main display. The safe region around Halcyon Ward shifted across 3 firing solutions at once. One belonged to Glass Harbor, one belonged to Bell 3, one belonged to Second Bell. Mar stared at the movement. Our clean lanes are gone. Anika had expected the recovered stabilizer to carry the station long enough for evacuation. That assumption had just failed. How long before Arm 2 exceeds transfer tolerance? 8 minutes if the roll keeps building. Can Ward stop itself? Pyria answered before Mar could. No. We can slow it in pulses, but every pulse changes the docking lane. Valen had pressure on them already. Now the hospital itself was removing options. Human group, Anika said. Discard the pre-computed fire map? Rebuild from live medical traffic? No shot crosses a transfer cone, even if the cone moves after authorization. Mar turned toward her. That means we can lose a target between trigger and impact. Yes. We'll have to shorten engagement range. Yes. That puts us inside his pressure wall. I know. Second Bell burned inward. Valan saw the human formation contract and understood that something had changed before his analysts told him what. The hospital is rotating again. His operations officer said, Human mistake, station failure, effect. Their exclusion geometry is moving through their own firing lanes. Valen did not smile. Advance. Iron Psalm and 2 escorts moved closer. The Adrathi pressure group stopped alternating, only to drain human gyro reserves. They began using the hospital's changing transfer cone as moving cover. If humanity would not fire through medical space, then medical space could shape the battle. Valen placed his ships where the protected cone would pass next. He's using the hospital. Mar's face tightened. Not as a shield, exactly. No, as a clock. Every time Halcyon Ward rolled, the no-fire cone swept across another section of the battle space. Valen timed his advances to the sweep. Second Bell could rotate its weapons toward him. It could not always fire when the angle arrived. The Adrathi had turned human restraint into a predictable interval. Glass Harbor, visible burn, Anika ordered. Take high arc, Bell 3 opposite side, breaking our low plume pattern, Tactical said. We broke that 10 minutes ago. Stop protecting a secret he already solved. The human ships lit their drives. Glass Harbor climbed on an obvious thrust line, but its hull faced downward toward an escort below the orbital plane. Bell 3 moved the other way while keeping armor toward Iron Psalm. Their gyro keels no longer hid their existence. They let human ships choose which surface paid for movement. Valen fired at Glass Harbor's predicted path. Glass Harbor accepted the prediction. It did not dodge. Its internal attitude system rolled the strongest shield sector into the shot while the ship continued climbing. The impact drove light across its hull. Then Glass Harbor fired downward and forced the lower Adrathi escort to break. Adaptation, Valen said. His targeting officer looked over. They are still using the same system. Exactly. Second Bell entered short engagement range. Anika felt each correction through the deck now. The cruiser's main drive pushed, cut, pushed again. Between burns, the gyro keel tipped the hull by small degrees, keeping the forward armor toward Iron Psalm while side batteries tracked escorts. Keel load 62, Mar said. Keep below 80? Valen may object. He can file it. Mar almost smiled. Iron Psalm's port battery opened. Second Bell rotated 3 degrees and took the pressure across armored plating and shields. Anika returned fire. Her burst struck the outer feed of an Adrathi lateral battery. The battery folded into safe position. Bell 3 disabled the maneuver control vanes on another escort's weapons cluster. Glass Harbor forced a third ship to withdraw from the ring. No reactors broke. No crew sections opened. The Adrathi attack lost functions one system at a time. Fourth ferry is committed, her docking coordinator said. Pyria checked the transfer collar. Condensation had formed around the emergency seal, where cold propellant lines met warm station air. 2 technicians moved a manual door wedge from one powerless hatch to another as the ferry's patients were transferred inward. Keep them moving. The floor tilted slightly. Outside, Second Bell crossed in front of the hospital window. Drive bright bow pointed almost 90 degrees away from its travel. Valen's analysts found the expense. Human internal load rises fastest during rapid counterfacing, the targeting officer said. Short turns are efficient. Repeated reversals are not. Valen studied Second Bell's pattern. The humans had adapted by making smaller attitude changes, so he stopped offering small problems. Iron Psalm faint inward. Escorts 4 and 6, separate wide. On my mark, threaten opposite hospital approaches. His operations officer hesitated. That opens our center. For seconds, to the human flagship. Yes, Valen was offering Annika Rowe the target she wanted. Iron Psalm accelerated into a position where Second Bell could attack its forward weapons from close range. At the same time, 2 Adrathi escorts moved toward opposite edges of Halcyon Ward's transfer geometry. Annika saw the opening. Tactical flagship solution. Clean for 4 seconds. Mar, keel at 71. We can face him. Escorts. Both are moving toward medical approach lanes. The answer was obvious and still painful. Bell 3 takes port escort. Glass Harbor takes starboard. We hold flagship that gave Valen his second success. Second Bell rotated hard toward 1 escort, then back toward Iron Psalm when Bell 3 forced it away. The reversal drove gyro load into amber. A second feint came from the opposite side. Annika turned again. 82, Mar said. Dump 5, visible thruster unload. Do it? Jets flashed along Second Bell's hull. Valen's sensors caught the unload. Again, he ordered. Second Bell's gyrokeel climbed toward saturation. At 89%, Mar put one hand flat on his console as though the gesture could steady the machinery below. We need a full unload. Cost, main drive correction, and 12 seconds with predictable facing. 12 is long. It is. Annika looked at Iron Psalm. Valen knew it too. Do it behind hospital shadow? No, that puts thrust wash too close to arm 2. Another clean option disappeared. Annika keyed the group. We unload in open space. Everyone covers. Second Bell fired main attitude thrusters and allowed the gyrokeel to shed stored rotation. For 12 seconds, its facing became ordinary. Valen attacked, not the hospital, the cruiser. Iron Psalm's fire struck Second Bell's forward shields in 2 controlled impacts. The first collapsed a sector. The second forced a power transfer that darkened one side battery. Shield holding, tactical called. Battery 6 unavailable. Mar watched the load fall. 70. 60. 52. Wait. Another Adrathi solution formed. 41. Now. Second Bell rolled. The third shot crossed empty space. The human cruiser came out of the unload with 1 battery dark, its clean position lost, and the gyrokeel usable again. He wants the station intact, she said. He hit us when he had a hospital lane. Annika continued. He didn't take it professional courtesy. No. Political requirement? He needs Halcyon Ward alive enough to prove he controlled it. Human group, stop defending the whole ring. Tactical turned. Commodore, defend the transfer cone. Let him have empty space. The formation changed. Human ships stopped trying to keep Adrathi units outside every line around Halcyon Ward. They abandoned portions of the perimeter and concentrated only where medical traffic actually existed. Iron Psalm entered an area humanity no longer contested. Nothing happened. An Adrathi escort followed. Still nothing. Then the hospital's transfer cone rotated toward that area. Second Bell was already facing it. The human cruiser fired before the escort could exploit the crossing. 1 burst safed the escort's forward battery. Bell 3 disabled its targeting array. The escort withdrew. Valen watched the geometry invert. He had used human restraint as a clock. Rowe had reduced the clock to 1 moving hand. Do not pursue empty perimeter, he ordered. Pressure the cone directly from outside. A human ship moved, and a ferry gained an approach. An Adrathi ship advanced, and the transfer cone narrowed. Second Bell turned, and a weapon went safe. Halcyon Ward pulsed its stabilizers, and the whole pattern shifted. Pyria's 4th ferry locked. Transfer started, she said. How many remain? 1 large transport outside. Then the mobile wards can separate. Mar checked the battle clock. Valen will know. Iron Psalm changed course. Not toward the hospital, towered the outer transport. Valen stopped just short of the medical craft's protected approach lane. He opened a direct channel. Commodore Rowe, withdraw your warships beyond the old boundary. The hospital completes evacuation. This ends. Anika looked at the transport, then at the Adrathi flagship. What happens to Halcyon Ward? Imperial inspection and temporary control. So the attack succeeds. The patients leave. You are offering me a smaller loss. I am offering you the reason your species kept peace for 107 years. Anika's voice stayed level. No, you are offering me your definition of peace. She closed the channel. Valon's forward batteries came hot. Second Bell had a clear solution on Iron Psalm's weapon spine. For 3 seconds, nothing medical crossed it. Tactical, Anika said. Flagship battery solution clean. Mar looked at the gyro state. We can take it. Then Halcyon Ward moved. A failed stabilizer pulse pushed the station half a degree farther than predicted. The final transport's approach corridor swept across Second Bell's firing line. The targeting solution went red. Anika's hand was already above authorization. She pulled it back. Hold fire. Iron Psalm continued advancing. The clean shot was gone. So was humanity's best chance to end the battle before Valon could reform his pressure groups. Mar exhaled through his nose. That cost us. Yes. How much? Anika watched Adrathi escorts turning back toward their flagship. We're about to find out. Valon reformed his pressure groups before Second Bell could rebuild the lost firing lane. That was the price Anika had accepted. Iron Psalm moved between the final medical transport and the outer edge of the exclusion ring. 2 escorts took wide positions. A third, already combat-limited, stayed back with its forward battery safed but engines active. Transport status, Anika asked. Pyria answered. Approach is still good. Transfer cone is drifting faster. If they miss this pass, I cannot promise another clean docking window. How long? 4 minutes. She could no longer win by recovering surprise. Valon knew the keel. He knew its saturation pattern. He knew humanity would not fire through the hospital's moving medical corridor. Human group, she said. New rule. We do not defend position. We defend time, Anika pointed at the transport. 4 minutes. The hospital gets them. Everything else is optional. Second Bell accelerated straight toward Iron Psalm. Valon knew before she finished asking. He ordered the wide escorts inward. The Adrathi moved. Second Bell kept its drive burning. Mar used the gyro keel only to keep the cruiser's strongest armor and remaining batteries aligned while the main drive committed them to the center. Iron Psalm fired. Second Bell took the first shot across reinforced shields. Glass Harbor crossed behind it and fired at the port escort's weapon control vane. The vane safed. Bell 3 forced the starboard escort to turn away from the transport lane. Valon shifted his flagship upward and ordered both escorts to attack from opposite elevations. Mar, 64. We take 1 turn, not 2. Which one? Neither. Second Bell did not rotate toward either escort. It kept facing Iron Psalm. The escorts fired. Glass Harbor intercepted 1 line with shields. Bell 3 took the other across its armored flank. Human formation integrity alarms filled the bridge. Flagship battery spine, she said. 12-second solution. The final transport entered Halcyon Ward's approach lane. The firing line to Iron Psalm remained clear. Forward shields full, he ordered. All batteries on Second Bell. Iron Psalm fired before the human cruiser did. Second Bell's bridge went dim. 1 console died completely. Mars maintenance lanyard snapped loose from its clip and floated for a second as local gravity flickered, then fell. Forward shields low, armor intact. Keel 72. Anika waited. Iron Psalm began another firing cycle. Tactical, solution holding. Disable forward battery power distribution. Nothing aft of the weapon spine. Locked fire. Second Bell's surviving batteries struck in sequence. The first burst collapsed Iron Psalm's forward shield. The second cut the external power trunk feeding its primary weapon cluster. The third hit the armored actuator housing that allowed the battery to traverse. Iron Psalm's main guns went dark. The humans had reached the target they had declined minutes earlier. They had chosen less damage than they could have caused. His operations officer said, "We can still press with escorts." It was 30 seconds from capture by Halcyon Ward's collar. Press. The word tasted wrong even to him. But the battle had not ended. The escorts moved. One came high toward Second Bell. The other drove low toward Glass Harbor and the medical approach. Keel 79, Anika saw the lower escorts line. If Glass Harbor turned to face it, the ship would expose its weakened shield sector. If Second Bell turned, the gyro keel would approach saturation before Valen's high escort arrived. If no one turned, the lower ship could force the transport to abort. Bell 3, take high. Bell 3 has reduced maneuver control. Tactical warned, I know. Glass Harbor, hold the transport. Mar looked at Anika. That leaves us the lower escort. Not if Harbor makes it move. Glass Harbor did not fire at the approaching Adrathi ship. It burned across the escort's path. A collision warning appeared on both fleets' displays. The Adrathi captain broke upward. That was all Anika needed. Second Bell rotated 6 degrees. Not enough to chase the escort, only enough to put one side battery across the space it had been forced to enter. Fire control vein, she said. The burst hit. The escort's forward weapons safed. Mar watched the keel jump to 86. Too high. Unload. Now. Second Bell fired attitude jets in plain view of every Adrathi sensor. Its facing became predictable again. Valen's remaining high escort turned toward the exposed human flank. This was the opening he had spent the battle creating. Escort 5, attack. The Adrathi ship accelerated. Bell 3 tried to intercept but lacked the maneuver response. Glass Harbor was still protecting the transport. Second Bell could not rotate fast enough without driving the keel back into saturation. Valan leaned forward. Then the medical transport locked to Halcyon Ward. The docking collar went green. Piria's voice crossed the channel. Transport secure. Anika did not look away from the attacking escort. Hospital, can you retract the approach cone? Beginning now. The protected medical corridor narrowed. Space that had been forbidden to human fire seconds earlier opened. Anika had been waiting for that physical change, not a secret weapon. Bell 3, clear. The damaged human patrol ship dropped away. Second Bell kept unloading its keel. It did not turn toward the Adrathi escort. Glass Harbor did. Its hull had already been facing the transport lane. With the lane clear, its side battery gained a legal firing arc. Harbor has solution. Tactical said, take weapons only. Glass Harbor fired. The Adrathi escort's forward battery cluster went dark. Its drive stayed bright. The attack lost its last clean route to Halcyon Ward. Valen's tactical display changed faster than his officers could speak. Iron Psalm's primary battery was disabled. One escort had safed weapons. Another had lost targeting. A third had withdrawn. The human ships were damaged but coordinated. The transport was docked. The hospital's inner ring was still rotating, but its evacuation was no longer exposed. He could order another attack. He could drive his remaining ships into shorter range. He could also see exactly what the humans would do, not annihilate him. Remove each function required to continue the assault. The distinction no longer looked like weakness. Prefect, his operations officer said quietly. New human transmission. Anika appeared on the command display. No triumph, no demand for surrender. Halcyon Ward is secure, she said. Your medical targeting action is over. Withdraw on Vector 9. We will not fire on ships using that route unless they rearm against the hospital or us. Valen looked at Vector 9. It was real wide enough for Iron Psalm and every surviving escort. It did not pass through a human kill pocket. You broke your peace, he said. Anika's face did not change. You attacked a hospital. For this? For the rule behind it. Valan glanced at the dead forward battery marker. You could disable more, yes. You could try to take Iron Psalm, yes, and you are offering withdrawal. I am ending the attack. I'm not beginning a different one because I can. Valan sat back. For 107 years, Adrathi analysts had measured human peace by the absence of offensive campaigns. They had counted what humanity had not done. He had assumed absence meant erosion. Human ships had spent a century learning how to maneuver beside fragile stations, how to place armor without throwing thrust across docking arms, how to keep weapon arcs separate from travel, how to accept predictable movement rather than endanger medical traffic. The battle had given him a different measure. How to fire at functions instead of bodies when the mission allowed it. Peace had not emptied the fleet. It had trained its limits. Valen closed his hand. "All Adrathi units," he said. "We withdraw on Vector 9. Weapons safe during transit." His operations officer turned toward him. "Prefect, do it." Iron Psalm's surviving secondary batteries folded. The escorts followed. Second Bell did not pursue. On Halcyon Ward, Pyria watched the Imperial markers move away from the medical ring. She had patients still in transfer, power failures still moving through 2 sections, a stabilization system that needed to be shut down before it failed again. There was no room for ceremony. "Arm 2 secure," the docking coordinator said. Pyria nodded. "Close the outer collar. Move the wedge from pharmacy hatch 3 to recovery access. We still have dead doors." A technician ran past carrying the small white polymer wedge. The object looked absurdly ordinary against the warship markers outside. That felt appropriate. Annika stepped away from Second Bell's command chair only after Iron Psalm crossed the outer boundary. Mar was kneeling beside the dead console, reconnecting a clipped lanyard so it would not drift into the repair space. "Keel state?" she asked. 31 and falling. "It will need inspection." "Battery 6? Repairable? Bell 3? Still mobile? Glass Harbor?" Complaining, which is usually encouraging, Annika allowed herself one quiet breath. Then the neutral authorities called. The Calixan Medical Union convened its emergency session from Halcyon Ward itself. Adrathi representatives joined from outside the system after Valen transmitted his combat record without alteration. The change that followed was narrow because narrow changes were harder to fake. The Adrathi Empire suspended its coercive target doctrine for protected medical installations pending formal revision. Calixan authorities expanded the medical exclusion standard to forbid not only direct fire, but maneuver designed to exploit active patient transfer corridors. Humanity recorded it had broken 107 years of peace to wage war against Valen's attacking fleet, not Adrathi civilians, colonies, or surrendered forces. The conflict remained where it had begun, with the fleet that had attacked Halcyon Ward and the rules that had allowed it. Valan sent one final message before Iron Psalm left Ravelin Verge. Commodore Rowe. "My report will state that human warships are not constrained by drive-facing prediction." Annika read it twice. Then she answered, "Add that the hospital mattered more than proving it." Valan did. Hours later, Halcyon Ward's stabilization system was fully shut down and replaced by slow tug control. The station no longer rolled. Emergency collars reopened one at a time. Pyria walked the outer transfer corridor as technicians restored power. Condensation still silvered the air transfer housings. White traction strips were scuffed from boots and equipment carts. At Pharmacy Hatch 3, the automatic door finally responded. A technician pulled the little white polymer wedge free. Pyria took it from him and set it on the window ledge. Outside, abandoned Adrathi attack markers drifted dark beyond the restored medical ring. Second Bell turned toward the new warfront. Every battery facing Halcyon Ward remained physically shuttered.